Welcome to the Coriolis Effect with Cory Oliver.
Hi guys, I'm Cory Oliver. Thanks for watching the Coriolis Effect. Please hit the subscribe button below, and we hope you like this episode. Hi guys, we wanted to announce that like many podcasters, we just started a Patreon account. Visit our page at patreon.com/the Coriolis Effect. We have 5 different levels of membership and offer early access to episodes, behind-the-scenes footage, bonus episodes, shoutouts, and much more, including personal phone calls, questions and answer sessions, and live chats with Bob and me. That's patreon.com/the Coriolis Effect. Today's episode is brought to you by Aqua 9 Plus all-natural ionic mineral alkaline drinking water. Aqua 9 Plus is one of the first and only all-natural ionic mineral bottled drinking waters in the world. It has one of the highest and most stable pH of any bottled water on the market, with a pH ranging from 9.5 to 10. And I gotta tell you, besides tasting great, high alkaline water has so many positive health benefits. It increases your endurance, it deactivates pepsin in the body, which helps reduce the occurrences of upset stomachs. It neutralizes pesticides and fungicides on produce. It increases oxygen delivery throughout the body, and it helps reduce heartburn and indigestion. When you consider that coffee can have a pH as low as 2, which is very acidic, that pH can be neutralized by using high pH water. And a medical study has suggested that alkaline ionized water may have benefits for people with high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol. You can go to aquanineplus.com. That's AQUANINEPLUS.com to find the nearest store that sells Aqua 9 Plus all-natural ionic mineral alkaline drinking water. They also sell a home water system which produces purified ionic mineral 9.5 plus pH drinking water naturally directly in your home without the use of electricity.
And you
wow,
can also
that's cool.
Yeah, and you can also find filling stations at local grocery stores. If you go to their website, aqua9plus.com, they'll tell you where the nearest filling station is near you. So you go there with a 5-gallon jug or a 2-gallon jug, pay your money, and it fills it up, and it lasts for a couple of weeks.
There's actually one at Air One. There's all the Air Ones. It's a great water. It's really great water. It actually tastes great. We are grateful to have them on the show and supporting us.
Yes.
But I also love their water.
No, their water tastes great.
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Cory. How are you?
Oh, every time I watched you with that remote, I thought that you were trying to or you were gonna press record. Were we recording that whole time?
Yeah, we record about like 2 or 3 minutes before we start, and about 3 or 4 minutes after. That's how I catch all the bloopers.
Okay, well,
the button is the clock on the wall. So
I just realized that. Okay, a little slow on the uptake.
I had a different sign too. Shoot.
Do not bang the table?
No, yeah, I have another one I wanted to put up there. Kind of like let the guest speak.
I don't want to cut you off right now because I know everything that you say is so important.
Everybody who says I don't want to immediately does what they just say I don't want to do.
I know. But I don't want to win the lottery.
Why not?
Because you said the opposite. So just kidding. You're laughing silently.
I know. I should.
It's funny because you were making a reference to mine. Reference.
A reference?
Yeah.
I've made a very
How's
references.
your finger? I see a Band-Aid.
Oh, it's on my thumb. Yeah. I did something stupid. I bought
something.
I did another thing stupid.
Just kidding.
No, I bought a bunch of these little 1-foot extension cords that allows you to put an adapter in so the adapters don't mess up the strip. And they have these little these little things on them, paper. And then you have to cut off the zip tie.
Oh.
So I was cutting off the zip tie, and I said, I'll just do it this way. And as I'm doing it, I'm thinking, I better not. And the scissors went right into my hand.
Ooh, Bob, I'm
Ow.
sorry.
So,
Is it okay? Did you get stitches?
No stitches.
Okay.
No, real men don't have stitches.
No, they don't. You're right.
So what's up with you?
Nothing. I'm just really, really good.
I found out that my lovely wife has, I don't want to say given up, but has not had time to listen to the podcasts. And I know that because remember the episode where I said I'd pay her $40 a week not to clean the bathroom?
She hasn't claimed it yet?
She hasn't claimed it yet. So she basically said, she said, look, she's running her business with Julia and she's down in Florida now doing that. So she said, I'm just too busy. I said, great. And
so does that give you license now to
my
say
mind's
whatever
like,
you want?
I can say anything I want now.
No, you can't, because I'm going to go with Irina.
You can always go with Irina, but now I get to speak without any kind of repercussions.
Yeah, well, that she has me. I'm her sister.
So I was away for 2 weeks, and I just got back last night or 2 nights ago, and Irina's now in Florida. So I get back and the house is empty. And I'm going around, and I am, I'm very OCD. So somebody moves something, I see it. So I always made...
You should have seen the face he just gave me when I picked my keys up off the table. It was like it was hands on a chalkboard.
You don't put metal things on wood tables.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm just saying. Anyway, I go into my music studio, and there's a set of binoculars on the chair with the caps off, the lenses, and just sitting there out of the case. First of all, I didn't even know we had binoculars. But I'm thinking, now you got to remember, my wife is... It was Gladys, right? It was the next door neighbor of Bewitched across the street. Used to look out the window at everybody.
Kravitz.
Mrs. Kravitz, Gladys Kravitz.
Yeah.
I think it was Gladys. So she sees.
She doesn't look like her. She's stunningly, beautifully.
Oh, God, no, yes.
Well, Mrs. Kravitz is too. It's just a different era.
She was not stunningly beautiful.
She was.
No.
She was beautiful.
Elizabeth Montgomery was very beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, she comes to me during the day like, 2 of the dogs got loose of our neighbors, and they're down the hill, and we got to go get them. How do you know that? They live like 3 houses down on the side. I happen to have seen it out the window. She sees everything. So I called her up, or I texted her and said, we are looking at the binoculars at one of our neighbors. She said, no, there was a car that came at night. And so she was at the window with the binoculars staring at this car all night long to see who it was.
Bless her heart.
Now keep in mind, one time we were on a walk, and this white car came. And we're about 2 blocks away from the house. And this white car came up and parked, and my lovely wife says, that car doesn't belong in this neighborhood. And it was like an Acura. It was just a very nice car. It wasn't beat down. How do you know? She goes, I've never seen that car in this neighborhood before. There are 50, 100 houses in our neighborhood.
She knows.
She knows. So she kept, and the car parked, and we went up a side street, and she kept turning around looking at the car. I said, stop it. Why? She goes, why? She goes, they're going to see you looking at them, and then they're going to, she goes, well, they don't. So we walk about a half a block down, and 5 minutes later, the car gets going, drives right by us and gets really close to Irina, like we know you're watching us, speeding up.
No way.
Yeah, well, now we were on the sidewalk, so it didn't like come, but it could have hit her, and they were just basically saying, why are you looking at us?
You have to be careful.
Yes.
You have to be very careful. And it's always good to be vigilant and know your surroundings and know, your neighborhood and who's who. And it's just, that's good.
Well, now I give the other one. I'm less observant in anything in my life.
I mean, not to be like, I'm not a sexist person. It's at all. But guys they can compartmentalize and they're focused on certain things. It's not, I read the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
That was such a
Could have wrote it.
Yeah.
But it's true.
I know.
They're just focused on the big picture. I remember my ex-husband, number one, said, you're micro and I'm macro. And you'll always be that way. And I thought, that's so weird. What does that even mean? But guys are typically that way. Guys
We're a 40,000 foot view and you're down at the...
Yeah, but I'm actually more micro than macro.
Macro's 40,000 feet. Micro's in the trenches.
Yeah.
So we would go to the grocery store, come home, and 3 days later, there's nothing to eat. I'm like, I went to the grocery store. And then like 2 weeks later, I'd see something that I wanted to eat that went bad. And I realized that she doesn't put it on the shelves that are at my eye level. She puts it on like the bottom shelf. And if I don't see it at the eye level shelf, it's not in the refrigerator. Because I just don't see it. And I'm like, would you stop hiding?
It's right there.
So, those grapefruits you like? Those big things of grapefruit?
Yes, I love those.
They're these containers. They're $10
Del
each.
Monte.
Yeah, great thing. And I would buy 1 or 2 every time I go to the store. And I never had them in the refrigerator. So I keep buying more. And she says, stop buying them. I said, well, we don't have any. So I'm buying it. So
That's
I come
who's
home.
buying them all. I've gone to get you them,
Yes.
and they're all sold out at that route.
So we get home, and I have another one. She opens the refrigerator, and in the door, there's like 4 of these huge containers. Well, I don't look in the door. I look straight ahead. Anyway.
Really? So you don't think that they're even there? That's hilarious.
I don't think to look. I think put them where they should. So I get home last night or 2 nights ago, and I'm by myself, and I had these Eggos. Remember Eggos?
Yes, let go of my Eggo.
Oh my God, they're great. So
Whole
I figured, okay, I'll
campaign.
toast the Eggos. Now I can't find the toaster. Because if we have a range, and to the right was the toaster and her coffee pot and another thing. And I'm like, she had the toaster. Now, Irene's very big on get things off the counter.
Me too.
I
Don't
look
like that.
through every drawer. I look through every cabinet. 10 minutes, I can't find the darn toaster. I'm texting her, where's the toaster? Where's the toaster? Finally, she texts back. She goes, it's on the other side of the stove. So it was on the counter, just to the left of the stove.
Are you kidding?
I didn't see it. And I'm telling you, I looked throughout this kitchen. I almost hit her coffee pot. I was so mad because I thought she hit it on me. And so anyway.
I love you, Irina. That's hilarious. On the other side.
Why would you move it? It's been there for 5 years we've been married. Why would you move it?
She's just messing when
She
she's
said, I
away.
moved it in February. I
love
said,
it.
why would you move my thing? My father,
That's so great.
My father was very big on don't move my stuff. He had his sink, don't move my things. My first marriage, we got married back in Philadelphia at my parents' house, and my ex was there, the 3 bridesmaids were there, my father's upstairs the day of the wedding. He is screaming, cursing at the top of his lungs. Ah! And the bridesmaids are shaking.
Oh.
What's going on? I said, somebody moved my dad's toothpaste,
Oh.
and he just brushed his teeth with Desenex.
Stop.
Because the tubes are the same.
No.
So somebody moved the toothpaste, and he grabbed the Desenex tube, which is for athletes' feet, thinking it was his toothpaste. Couldn't read it and put it and brush his teeth.
Oh, on the wedding day.
And they said, how do you know that? I said, because it's not the first time it's happened. I said, you don't move his toothpaste.
Well, now, was that intentional or I don't know?
No. It was just somebody somebody went in there and moved his toothpaste.
The more you reveal about your childhood, the more I understand you. It's kind of unfolding like an onion.
There are so many stories I have about my
I'm
childhood.
just finishing my
Again
I'm
with the
sorry,
gum?
It's a Tic Tac.
Oh, Tic Tac, okay.
I know. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I just realized
fixation.
it was in my mouth. And these are not a sponsor, but have you tried these ones?
Yeah,
They're
Tic
really
Tacs
good.
are very, very good.
I don't
So,
know what kind that is. 'Cause I don't have my
I tell
glasses.
people the stories about my father, and one time with my son and I, we were in therapy, and I was alone with the guy in therapy. He said, tell me about your father. And I tell him 3 or 4 stories, and the look on his face. Now, I think these stories are the best stories in my life. And I'm thinking, yeah, this guy was a great man. I love my father to death. He's my idol. And people look at you like, I'll give you the perfect one. I was 7. This is my favorite story about my father. 7 years old. I wrote my letter to Santa Claus in crayon or something on a piece of paper, handed it to my father. 5 minutes later, he gave it back to me, corrected for spelling and grammar. Because he said, Santa Claus does not give toys to kids with bad grammar.
Oh.
And so I rewrote my letter to Santa Claus, corrected the grammar, went through 2 drafts, and handed it in. That's a great story. You tell it to a psychologist and like, well, that's a mentally disturbed. No, that is a fun story of my father.
Well, so how did that make you feel?
Yeah, really, exactly. When I was a kid, I was like, okay, it was wrong. I said, well, Santa doesn't give kids with bad grammar gifts, so I just better fix it.
So I have a really cute story to your point. My daughter, who is just so cute and so funny, she has the greatest sense of humor. But when she was like 6 or 7, I had the whole like trust talk, and you have to be able to trust someone, and you have to be able to, it was just one of those moments where it was like a teachable moment. So I don't even think she did anything wrong. We were just talking about it. So she sits down, a tooth came out, and she sits down on the bed. I'm not kidding. She sits down. She's got a pad of paper. This is her looking up at me. I'm walking by. She's writing this letter. It's a letter to the tooth fairy. She folds it up and she puts it under her pillow. And that night, I'm the tooth fairy. I pull out the letter, and it says, "Dear Tooth Fairy," and then in little quotes things, or "Mommy." I trust that if you are the tooth fairy, you will call me at, and she gives my phone number, my cell phone. And if you're not, you will circle the box below, yes or no. And I trust, and she just keeps going on and on and on. And I was like, what do I do? Like, I want to keep this tooth fairy thing going because she's not old enough yet. But I had to reveal my sources and my identity. And I just thought, I wonder, she does love that. She loves that story. But it's just so, the biggest lie we ever tell our kids is
Santa Claus.
Yeah. We start out with a lie. And even though it's kind of fun,
it's a lie.
It's
nothing short of an absolute lie.
Right. So it's an interesting.
2 tooth fairy stories. One is when my son was playing Little League ball. I think his name is Jimmy D. He's a well-known music producer. He produced like Janet Jackson and Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So his kid was on the team. And one day I had to talk to him, and I said, Jimmy, your son lost a tooth. Yeah. Tooth fairy. Yeah. I said, what'd you give him? He said, well, I gave him $20. I said, yeah, you need to talk to all of us first because we all give our kids 5.
I gave Ariana a 20 first.
Yeah, see, but then she talks to her friends, and I got 5. I got 20.
Why doesn't the tooth fairy
Yeah,
like
exactly.
me?
I said, this is a neighborhood thing. You need to go on and things. Yeah,
It should be in the
and
handbook.
we're not giving our kids $20 a tooth.
It should be in the handbook.
We don't have Jimmy D money.
I think I said to her, you got 20 because it was your big
Big
tooth.
tooth,
Yeah.
And his wife was like really mad at him. Yeah, why did you go to?
I know.
So Sammy, my daughter, was in 3rd or 4th grade at elementary school, and once a month they would have the Shave It truck park outside, which is great. So she knew it was either Thursday or Friday. There was a shaver truck the night before, and she didn't have any money. And she asked, and so I said, no. I said, you spent your allowance. Yeah. So she goes upstairs, thinks about it, and grabs her tooth and just starts working on it. It was not loose. And she loosened it and pulled it out, went downstairs. I lost a tooth, put it under a pillow, got $5 and used it for shave it. And later I said, she was telling me, I said, was that tooth loose? She goes, no, but I needed $5. I said, well, you can do that about 18 more times or however many more teeth you have left.
Creative, I tell you. Yeah, right?
I said, eventually you're going to run out, and don't go after the big teeth because they don't grow back. So
I actually asked my dad to pull one of my loose teeth out one time, and he came in with literally pliers that night, and I bit him, and I was like, why would you come in with pliers? Who tries to take their kid's tooth out with pliers?
Yeah, tie a string around the doornail.
Yeah.
All right, who's our guest today?
Our guest today is Matt Moore.
Okay.
And I'll probably reiterate this once the show starts, but I met Matt in London. It was the only time I've ever been in London, and it was at a God's Not Dead premiere.
Oh, nice.
And he has quite the story to tell and a testimony. And it's really, we're going to touch on depression a lot, I think, today, just because, we've all been quarantined and locked up and isolated, and a lot of people are depressed right now.
Right. Especially in London
And all over the world. And so he has a lot of great things to say. And so he's on the show today.
Well, I look forward to seeing him. And you didn't say anything about the new stand.
Oh my gosh. It's a acrylic stand.
You can thank Irina.
Thank you, Irina.
She made fun of the blue
I love you,
stand we
Irina.
had. She texted me and said, did you make that stand? I said, yeah. You need to get another one. And she sent me that picture for Amazon.
This
I had to
is
go buy
perfect.
I know.
It has fingerprints.
Well, it's because you just dragged it across the wood table, but that's okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. See you soon.
Okay. So really excited about my friend Dominique Panassi's new sexymetals.com site. She was my co-star in Beverly Hills Pawn. And we worked alongside each other for 3 years, and I'm just so proud of her. She has a new site called sexy-metals.com. It is a unique estate treasures in gold, platinum, silver, diamond, and gemstone. She has a promo code Cory10. That's Cory10. Cory10 is the promo code for sexymetals.com, sexy-metals.com, and you will receive a discount. She has everything from engagement rings to mini gold hoops to Cartier. She has estate jewelry. She has memorabilia. I mean, there's just cuffs and chains and earrings and signed pieces, brooches and pins, sterling, charms, necklace and pendants. She's got collars. She just has a ton of beautiful items that come with a story. Most of them come with a story. Look at that Tiffany hammered sterling pendant. Wow, that was beautiful. And they're really reasonably priced. That was like $400 for anything Tiffany for $400 is a great price. And she has a lot of vintage things on her site, and it's just easy to navigate, and it's beautifully designed. So I encourage you to just stop by and see if you could find something for your loved one. It's very reasonable. She has high ticket items and affordable prices. It is sexy-metals.com. I might have to get that little pearl crown charm pendant.
Let's start the show.
Let's start the show. Hi, Matt.
Hey. So let's start the show. Then you didn't say anything. Start.
I was saying hi, Matt. Today, my guest is very, very special to me. They all are.
Everybody you've met is very, very special to you.
I mean, I have been so amazed at how God has pulled everything together for this.
Who do you hate?
What?
Who do you hate?
I don't hate anybody. The Bible says not to. But I will just say quickly before we get into this interview that I met Matt Moore, who is currently in front of me on a Zoom because he is in London, far, far away. I met him at a God's Not Dead premiere. I went to London. It was my only time I've ever been to London for 72 hours. It was the quickest turnaround ever. Pureflix flew me out there to promote the movie God's Not Dead. And Matt was one of the very few people I actually had a conversation with. It was a quick conversation. And honestly, throughout the last 5 years, and this is no joke, and he does not know I'm going to say this, he has sent me randomly direct messages in my Instagram, and they've been encouraging and inspiring, and they are in moments where he has no idea what I'm going through, but God has really literally used him in those moments to get me over a hump at some point. So
That's a true friend.
to that point, I want to say thank you in advance before this interview even starts, that you don't even know how you've impacted me throughout the last 5 years with just those direct messages. So thank you for listening, first of all, to God's voice, right? And following through with those messages, because they certainly helped me in times where I was really barely breathing. And I thank you, my friend. So Matt Moore is with us today. He's going to talk about depression. He's going to talk about forgiving the family narcissist, which is a very difficult thing to do, but that there is hope and there is recovery and there is forgiveness. I know you have a story and a testimony, but first we have a word of the day, Matt. These are phobias. We're going to play the phobia and see if you can guess what it is.
Okay.
Aphenphonphobia.
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 I don't know what it is.
Aphenphosm phobia. Aphenphonphobia.
Is it a phobia of pens?
No.
Oh, that's a good.
That would be pen phobia.
Pen phobia. What is that a phobia? I don't even know.
Today, when that little flying saucer was flying around, you were freaking out. It's a fear of being touched.
Fear of being touched.
Yes.
Okay. He had this little, and it was flying over me and it was hitting me. And you know what? I was a fear of being touched in that moment. I really was. So it's hit the ceiling now. I want to show him what it is. Anyway, it was hitting me and I was like screaming. So that's kind of a good one. That was for me.
But random having a flying saucer hit you for just no reason.
Nobody wants that, right?
Yeah, right.
But having one hit you for a good reason.
Right. Well, let's get to it, because this is really, Matt has a great testimony, and I don't even want to, I have pages full of notes here, but I would rather you tell this whole story from beginning to end. You started out on a video that you sent me. It was 13 minutes long, and you started out at 3 months old, and I'd love for you to take us through that, your story, your testimony. Matt, welcome. Hello.
Okay, thank you. So, it's so difficult. Depends where you want me to end as well, I guess, with the testimony.
I want you to just share your heart, and you know who's out there that needs to hear whatever they need to hear. And it's really remarkable how God has taken you through this journey, and it's pretty heavy and deep. And I don't think we have to edit anything. You can share your heart, whatever you want to share. That's why I want you to do it, because I have all these notes and I know, but you have the details, and God is in the details. So I would let you just roll.
Yeah, basically, I mean, I was born into a military family as a baby, and not long after, well, basically, really probably very not long after being born, I was put into foster care with my sister, who's older than me. My dad tried to take his own life, and we went to the doctors to get help. My mum was put in a psychiatric ward for postpartum depression. And yeah, they divorced when I was 8 months old. And I never saw my dad again for 20 years. So, but from my life from there, you'd thought, I had my grandma, my mum's mum came over to get us. And she was such a godly lady, and probably was the greatest example I could have throughout my childhood. And she played a big part in the person that I would become today, and the way I could survive, because of hearing stories she survived was crazy. But for me, I suppose throughout my childhood, I was abused. I was abused physically, emotionally, spiritually, and sexually. And the abuse was not just in the home. I was abused at school, not only through bullying, but through teachers. I actually missed my first year of elementary school because my teacher didn't like me. And it was a case of you will look at books on a bookshelf and actually learn to read. Such was my life. But as I say, at home, I don't remember a lot of my childhood. The saddest memory I do remember, because I took my anger out a lot on my sister. And at 5 years old, I almost killed her. And I am not to this day proud to ever admit that. And but I've asked her for forgiveness for it. And honestly, she became a Christian before I did, and because of that, she forgave me. And you know, and I was able, and I think that helped towards begin my healing, to understand the power of who God was, even though I didn't know who God was at the time. And it was like a real seed planted for me. But like I say, throughout like my childhood, I actually started drinking alcohol when I was 5 or 6, which is probably why I don't remember much of my childhood as well. That was through my granddad, who was my mum's dad, who was an alcoholic. And he was one of my main abusers. My other one was my mum. Then my stepdad as well. As I say, I didn't have it easy. I had to learn to survive. I grew up with my mum when she was mad at me, holding a knife to her wrist, threatening to slit her wrists. So for me, suicide was a norm and a way out. And even as a child, all I could think about was, this is the easy way, this is what I want to do. But I was too afraid to do anything, because had I not had this inward fear in me, I would not be here right now. I would have been another child death statistic, ultimately. But like I say, I never really trusted anybody, never understood what love really meant, as I say, except from my gran and my uncle, who made me late tonight. But ultimately, I didn't have anybody. But one thing that I do at this point say, which I didn't share in the thing that I always remember, is I know now God had his hand on me, simply because when I'd walk out of where I was living in my home, the house was like, it's basically built on a hill, so you had to walk upstairs to get onto the street. And so when I woke up, I'd always, for no apparent reason, always look to my right. And every time I looked to my right, there was a church steeple. Basically, there was a church steeple, and really with that, for me, when I look at that, I know that God was right there. Now, as I look back, at the time I was young, I didn't know. But like I say, went on from there. At 14, I was an alcoholic, obviously through the drinking. And I looked at an age where, because over here we can drink at 18. So for me, although being 14, I was tall for my age, looked 18, so it was no big deal. And we were kind of forced to go to church. My granddad who was an abuser, was also a lay preacher in a church as well, and that didn't have me a good impression of God at all. Then my mum wanted to remarry in church, we had to go to another church, and again, I didn't have a good feeling at all. And I'm not proud to say this again, but I also got the minister's son into alcohol at 14. And I just got into a lot of like personal destructive behaviors. And I just kind of went within myself. I guess heavily depressed, heavily traumatized, thought that I had no worth, no value to anybody or anything. But then basically there was a point I began, when I left school, really no qualification to speak. I've left school at 16. This rehab came out of nowhere, and it was in Scotland. It was a Christian place, but what they were offering was courses in construction. And so for my mind, it was like, construction, great, more money, more drink, and all that. The only issue for me was it was in Scotland. And not because I'm English and they're Scots, but at that time, and this is the power of I believe God's healing, that he can heal anybody, because I was an alcoholic. I was racist. I was prejudiced. I was angry. I was hurting. And, literally I was getting into things that I shouldn't. And basically I ended up there, and I was there, and my mom drove me 8 hours there. She dropped me off. I have to say, in this time, she'd also become a Christian as well. And when I got there, I was always something. I'll be like, look, I'll give anything a go. I'll ultimately give anything a go, and so I did. And I literally was there. I said I'd give it a week, but I literally stayed there 9 months. Yeah, I was there for 9 months, and within that sort of time, the first few days there, the pastor spoke about his dad, who was the town drunk in the little town in Scotland.
Mm.
And he said about how that alcoholism destroyed his family. But he said, what happened was some Christians came alongside his dad in the street, ministered to him, and it literally transformed the lives of the family. Now, part of my story was one of the things that I was raised was, as a child, was I was not allowed to be a child. I was told, right, you are the man of the family. Therefore, your role is to look after your mother and your sister. And when you have two people like that are alike, that's not pretty. The best of times. So for me, I just didn't. So for me, it was very much like that hit me, because I was like, I'm actually going to destroy him. Like, yes, I'd actually compartmentalized everything that happened to me. So my thought was, I'm hurting them, so therefore it's my fault, I need to change. But in that moment as well, God used that, and at that moment I gave my heart to Christ. At that moment I was healed of the alcohol addiction, so I didn't have to go through any sort of withdrawal.
Wow.
And it started the process of healing. But I'd like to say that was the end, and everything was rosy. It was all like, rainbows and unicorns. It really wasn't, And that's the thing about.
I always say, new level, new devil, right?
Yeah, exactly. That is actually, but it is true, and it's one of the things that. The way I look at it at that point is, it's like there was still stuff I needed to work through. And I think, there can be this persona that we think that once we, get saved, we start a relationship with Christ, that everything's going to be great. And sometimes that's how it's portrayed, but the truth is that's not reality, and it's also not scriptural, So
let me ask really quickly, because I know that you, you did mention in a couple of your videos that someone in your family, I want to say your grandpa, but correct me if I'm wrong, was Freemason.
That was my great-granddad, yes.
Your great-granddad. So just touching on that for just a second, because I know that oftentimes you'll hear people talk about generational curses or assignments, or, you'll hear people say, oh, the Kennedy curse, or, people refer to it as a family or a generational curse. And, you also did talk about having, demons. I mean, a lot of people have demons, right? And they have to deal with. But you actually, at one point, you looked out of the window wherever you were, and you saw witchcraft and witches and demons, stuff that was not, it was heavy duty. And so, accepting Christ and God and believing, I always say, Satan believes too. He's a beautiful musician that fell from grace, right?
Yeah.
And it sometimes is it does get a little harder, right? It's almost a testing our faith, right? But how much of that did you have to combat, the generational assignments and curses?
Yeah, I'm glad actually you brought that up because for me, that was, I think, one of the biggest things, obviously for me, because it wasn't just seeing the demons, I was actually possessed by them, and I know that. I mean, the whole thing with Freemasonry is where things like the Illuminati we see today is linked. And my great-granddad was actually the highest Freemason in the city I grew up in. He was part of the generation of Freemasons that the devil was using to infiltrate churches in high leadership positions, particularly in the established churches. And that remnant is still being felt today.
So there was an assignment out on your life from literally, you talked about this from 3 months old. And, at 6 years old, you're drinking. At 12 years old, you're still drinking. And there was an assignment. But now you're literally doing freedom therapy. You're helping people get through. Yeah. I mean, it amazes me how it's come full circle. And, the devil always tries to take people out, right? Especially if you have a message, a plan, and a purpose that you are for good and for God. Yeah. What I love too about your story is that, I know you're not finished with it yet, but you 20 years later, or correct me if I'm wrong, you reconnected with your dad.
I did. Yeah. Basically, my life took on a whole new meaning of serving God. And one of the things I always knew was the power of reconciliation. And I think really to understand, for me personally, to understand God, to understand God's Father's heart, I needed to understand my dad. One of the things that I always needed to do was understand me, where I came from, who I was. That was important to me.
And just to clarify, was your dad the narcissist that you're speaking of when you say forgive the family narcissist?
No, that's later on. That was actually my half-sister's, his daughter's husband. That was that. Now, with my dad, he suffered with bipolar. He was actually abused by his wife, my stepmom, and daughters. Like when he was on a high, and with people with bipolar, when they're on a high, they will basically buy anything, do you know what I mean? Be overly generous. And they would play on that to get what they wanted, even if it meant bankrupting him. But no, it was really because my mum and my stepdad forced me into an adoption when I was 13 years old. When they married, they manipulated that. But little did I know that was actually the thing that would actually lead me to find, that God would use to lead me to find my dad, be reconciled. And ultimately, through that relationship, I only got to know him for 4 years. In that time, he worked in prisons as a nurse. He got a needle stuck in his hand from a patient, contracted HIV, because it was a high security prison. It wasn't, and that caused him again to spiral and to attempt to take his life.
What was that like? I don't want to cut you off, but I'm just interested in knowing, what was that like the first time that you saw him? After how many years had gone by? You really didn't
20.
know your dad. 20 years went by. You had never.
I was a baby when he went, so I just didn't know him. I didn't even see pictures of him.
What was that like that first time you saw him?
Honestly, it was weird because the funny joke was I parked my car in the worst way possible. I'm usually a perfectionist with that, but when I got to the door, when I saw him for the first time, it was like, it was just, it was surreal, but it was just so amazing. It was like, um, it just, my heart just broke, I guess I could say. I just, that moment, you know, because I knew I had sisters and all this, and you know, and basically it was like, yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was just like we literally hugged straight away, um, you know, and then we went out to eat. He and I walked ahead of anybody else, to just talk, and we did. And I literally I didn't say, I wasn't nice about it. And well, I was nice the way I said it, but I didn't give him a chance to concoct a story. I actually asked questions in a specific way that he had to answer, and they were, and in a way that was unexpected, because I needed answers. You know, I was 20
What were
years.
some of those questions? What did you ask him?
I've been so long, I can't remember. No, basically, I think for me, it was questions like crazy things like, who am I? What happened? Did you genuinely love me? You know, why did you abandon me? You know, and also, where have you been? You know, what has life looked like for you? What's been happening? You know, and you know, because I'd been raised to believe. I had been raised by my mom to believe my dad didn't want me. I was raised by my mom to believe I was the reason he left, that I should not have been born because I was competition to my dad. If I hadn't been born, then they, do you know what I mean? Then they wouldn't have split up. This is what I was to believe, that my dad didn't care, he didn't love me, he, like the rest of my, well, not the rest of my family, but other parts of my family, other people around me, even as a child, people were saying that they wanted me dead. They wished I hadn't been born, you know, that, yeah, basically I was dumb and never amount to anything. I was thick. I deserved nothing. And so I grew up feeling like nothing. So I wanted to know, or I needed to know what was happening, and if he genuinely loved me and if he genuinely valued me. And yeah, if he ever genuinely, well, basically, if he was going to be genuine and want a relationship with me,
What did he say?
What did he say?
Yeah.
Do you know what he said he did? He explained that he told his new wife and his stepdaughters, and then his daughters, my sisters, straight away about us. He said his dad was a street preacher, and you know, and I never got to meet his dad, sadly, but I got to meet his mom. And yeah, and basically when I got to meet her, she apparently always asked about us. She still loved my mom because her dad, my mom's dad, my granddad, was a big part of the breakup. It was nothing to do with me. I was just the one to be blamed. But he just, yeah, he showed me love and warmth, and we just talked. We talked about soccer. We talked about, in the end, just general things, and as I say, just kind of meeting the family and really just building something. But for the first time, I actually began to heal at that point. And I guess the thing that really hit me was the time a year or so later when my dad said to me, said, "Matt, I'm proud of you." And that's the first time, that's the first time I'd ever actually heard that. Genuinely heard.
Those words from a parent are so profound. Yes. Bob is going like this because as a child, that's all you want, is to know that your parents are proud.
Yeah. And honestly, I'd never heard that from my granddad. I'd never heard that from anybody, you know, and even in a way, my mom may have said it, but I didn't believe her. You know, because all I could think of the time she'd hold me up by my ankles and beat me, you know, and things like that. yeah, it's my life really, like I say, truthfully for me, um, all I wanted to do was know who I was and to find somebody that genuinely cared, but also to understand why God would care about me, why God would even want to give time for me. And like I say, within that time, I was still fighting a lot of demons. And it was only till just after my dad, as I say, it was crazy because before came to the States, to Indiana, in 2000, two very significant things happened in my life. The first was my trip got delayed, but in that time, my dad passed. But he died. But the beautiful thing is, he actually, in that year, he actually gave his heart to Christ.
Mm. Wow.
He thought it for so long, but it was, if you like, he heard not only his own dad's voice and the influence his own dad had on him, but he heard the Father's voice. And I heard God's voice at his funeral, and I'd never cried so much in my life as that day. But I felt God say, He's with me now, it's okay. And he even used my younger sister, who's not a Christian, to say those words. And I knew that was God using, basically just using those words that I needed to hear. But then while there as well, before I left, I went to see my granddad. My granddad also died a couple of years earlier, but God, when I was on the way to my granddad's, God said, well, I felt in my heart that I just needed to let God have control, that I had to let, because I had a lot of anger and resentment to this guy, and a lot of hurt, but I had to let God have total control, total thing, and just say, God, I want to see him through your eyes. And see, that's a great thing when you've got to forgive somebody. And it's why I love the song, Matthew West of Give Me Your Eyes. It's like to say, God, let me see them the way you see them. And I walked into walked into the lounge, into the living room, and I sat down, and he was sat in his normal chair, just watching TV, doing what he does. And literally, in an instant, my heart broke, because I didn't see a man that was, a man that would beat me for the smallest of things, a man that everybody feared. But I saw a man that was broken, that had nothing, just, and my heart broken. In that instant, I forgave him. But that wasn't the end of it. God followed up and said, Matt, this is the last time you're going to see him alive. And then I left for the States. And while I was out there, I was sat by a lake, and God said to me, I want you to write him a letter. Use it as a story form of the young people you're working with. And I want you to write him a letter just to share who I am to him. I did that. And literally, even though he'd grown up obviously around church, but it was a very religious faith, a very Pharisaic faith. So basically not a faith, really just a religion of, this is who I am type thing. Before he died, he also gave his heart to Christ. And yeah, and also going back a bit, sorry, it's like my gran didn't see her youngest son for years because he'd been ousted by the family, because he was seen as the unwanted child. And God also at that earlier used me then to write a letter just before she died to him. She got to see her youngest child before she went to heaven. And for me, and that's all she ever wanted. And God had me there to see that moment. And I guess for me, that's where the journey for reconciliation came, and fighting for my family, fighting for those that I care about. And then I guess
You went on to get, I want to just interject for a second. You went on to get your master's
Yes,
degree?
I did.
Yes, you went on to get your master's degree, which is, well done you. It's those are the claps. You're hilarious, Bob. Well, listen, things can tear you down, and people, it's difficult to dig your way out of a lot of those things that you talked about. I mean, you had a lot going against you, and you managed to rise above, right?
Yeah.
And I always say this because I know people that have gone through the similar things that you've gone through. Hurt people.
Mm.
And
That's deep.
it is. It really is.
True.
And it's until you heal the wound, you can perpetuate the whole same generational stuff, in families. And it sounds like you've done the work to heal the wounds in your in your life, right? And now you're helping others in their lives. And one of the reasons, there's many reasons why I wanted to talk with you today, but one of them is because there are a lot, there's always been this big D word, right? Depression. But even so more now, just with being locked up and, quarantined, and there's a lot of depressed people right now. And, you have a huge testimony, and, whoever's listening right now, what can you share with them to help them with thoughts of depression or suicide? I know people that have committed suicide during this pandemic because of the pandemic. And, whether it's the pandemic or demons or family generational curses or pornography, as you've stated, or sexual abuse or alcoholism or drug addiction, what could you say to someone who's listening that you may be able to help, that you do help people, you do freedom therapy?
I do. Well, I think for me, as somebody obviously only obviously within the past few years, attempted suicide twice, through the narcissist in my family who, basically took everything from me. That period for me, I guess, was the darkest area of my life in terms of depression, anxiety. And the first thing I would actually say is, you know what, if you're feeling that and going through that, number one is to get help, to seek help and support. You needed to start talking. Also to look at those things that look at things that can help you be creative to get the words out. Maybe it's to write, maybe it's to journal, maybe it's to draw, maybe you like music, to get out, go for a walk, do something. But ultimately,
but turn your pain into your purpose is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I actually did a training for youth leaders at my church on Sunday. And, from that, I've already had people come to me, like a young person who's German come to me, and she's like opened up. I'm mentoring her now on a lot of stuff. And this other one, she said, my brother's got really bad anxiety. What do I do? But ultimately, the thing about getting over it is I believe and I know that it's not the disease that can hold you. It's not something that becomes a part of you and who you are forever. Anxiety is something that you can work through. It's about and one of the key things is actually remembering what life was like before, to try and think of where did it start? What was the key? Number one, what was the key that started anxiety? What was the key that triggered it? And if it's COVID, in particular, it's not great, but it is great because then you can think, okay, well, it was this time. Now I know what things were like before. As we move back to how things were only better, I can live my life. Anxiety and depression, and why I use both of them, are basically linked. Out of anxiety, you get a lot of other mental health conditions, if not treated. So my heart really is just, is to say to get the help, get the support. And if you have friends, find the friends that you can trust. It's not just any friends. I always joke and say, look at Job. Job was depressed.
Yes.
He sought out friends, but they weren't the right friends. They were the wrong friends. And I guess that's another thing that I get would help me, particularly if you're on this and you believe, is actually look at people in the Bible that struggled and look how God brought them through. Elijah struggled, David struggled, as I say, Job did. And
Lost everything. They lost everything.
Yeah, and
know?
God restored everything. And the thing is, and this is where we need to just hold on to God and see, if we see characters in the Bible as genuine people as we are, we can actually then actually live by their example of how God led them through. And as I say, with anxiety and depression, with the right support, with able to get things out, to deal with stuff and not try and push them down, then you can bring real freedom. And like I say, it comes through freedom. And one of the greatest freedoms we can give is forgiveness.
It's forgiveness. And to that point, unforgiveness is really like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You're really just dying inside. And, one of the things too, and I really just feel led to talk about depression a little bit just because people are going through so much, but I did a little bit of research on depression, not a lot, but it does affect 17.3 million Americans and adults in the U.S. 7.1% of the population 18 and older are depressed. That's a lot of the people that are depressed and that are suffering or struggling in one way or another. And the thing I would say is you're not alone. Those are high numbers, so you're not alone, because you can feel isolated even just with depression, but then you throw on being isolated and, and held in your house and captivity, really. And it's depressing, but reach out, like you said, find someone you can talk to. Even just talking to somebody helps, right?
Yeah.
And on that, what is it like in London or in England now with COVID restrictions?
Right now, because one of the things I have noticed as well is for young people here, the rise of anxiety and depression is, hence why the training is going up. We don't know the full effects yet, but during this time, I've known and heard, people that have taken their own lives through it. This lockdown we're in right now has been going since the end of last year, and they're gradually easing it as obviously more people are vaccinated, but it's been tough, and a lot of people are feeling it financially, not just emotionally, about people who have had money, lost their jobs and lost everything, and all they have left is their family. But yet what I'm thankful for and what I'm seeing is the power of God shine through. But
he's kind of rising up as warriors right now, isn't he?
Yeah, do you know what? He totally is. He totally is. And God's healing people. And the reason I know and I believe that God can and will heal depression, will heal anxiety. And things are bad right now, but as I say, as you come out of it, as you do things to make yourself feel good, to be kind to yourself, look after yourself, and as I say, getting things down on paper in some way, shape or form, or even going out somewhere and yelling, but just getting that frustration emotion out, and as I say, then you will see freedom come. And the thing is, for people, if you are suffering with depression, you're not alone. Jesus is with you. He is with you. And literally, as somebody who's been there, in the darkest of times, he can send the right person to call you. And for me, one of the people is right here is Cory. There was times, and you encouraged me. And it is amazing that this is what God can do. And also don't think that while you're going through this time, that God can't use you, that you are worthless, that you have nothing to give. Do you know what? Even through the hardest times that we go through, God can still use us. He can show his faithfulness in reaching and helping others. In my
I want to
darkest
just, while you said that, one of the people right here is Cory. I was looking on my phone because I wanted to find one of the texts that you sent me on my Instagram when I was literally like in the fetal position. You didn't know. You don't know anything about. I met you at the God's Not Dead premiere years ago at 2014. And I was literally going through a really difficult time of my life, and I got this text from a random, Instagram message, and it said,
Go ahead.
I'm going to try to get through it. Sorry. Never forget, God loves you and you are precious to him. No matter what life throws at you, God will carry you through. And I honestly said that. I was like, how does he know? He's on the other side of the world. How do you know I need to hear that right then? This is why I know God is real. Because I was really literally in the fetal position, just really suffering. And you sent that. And I was really shocked. I was like, wait, I'm thinking to myself, how did you know? But, you personally didn't. God did. And he used you in that moment to really reach out and just randomly send that to me. And there are many times that you've done that. But your point, if we just let go and let God, he really shows up. It might be through someone else. It just might be through someone else. And I always pray for myself and for my daughter that we have eyes to see and ears to hear, and that the veil is lifted so that we can actually, have that uninterrupted connection with God so that he can speak to us or speak to someone else. It's not always easy. We get distracted with life's journey and life's distractions, i.e. one of these are the phone and social media and all of that stuff. But you truly have made an impact in my life indirectly. So I don't know. I just wanted to read one. That was just one of the moments that you really listened to God and how, think about it this way. You wouldn't have been able to send that if the enemy had won and you had taken your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just a...
I totally do, because I remember there's times when I've literally gone in, God's put me into like birthing pains for somebody and give him, and including you, but like literally where he's given me a word and it's at a time when it's major crisis. And that's not easy to go through yourself, but I've realized, it's because God cares so much. And what I actually remember saying, I said to a few people in my life, is this: God's taken me through what I have been through so you don't have to. The fact is, I wouldn't be who I am today if I'd not gone through. I needed to break, I needed to lose. And the time with like my brother-in-law taking everything from me, trying to kill me, threatening to kill me, all this sort of stuff. Even through that, God spoke to me. He said, Matt, two things. Right now you're going through two experiences. I said, what's that? And he's like, a Job experience, but also with the ministry side. He said, yeah, you're going through an Elisha experience. Because there are some, let's just say, some spiritual things within churches that need to be broken, which comes out of the connection a lot of times with Freemasonry and stuff. It's the Jezebelic spirit in particular. And I was like, and my first reaction was, thanks God, appreciate it. But it's like,
don't want to take this field trip again.
Yeah, it's just like, what you're doing. But God said, all through it, he said, trust me. And actually, I wouldn't Would I change some of it? Probably. But would I change it all? No, because it's what God has led me to. And
Yeah.
I remember the sweetest thing I heard was last week when, as I say, this one girl that I've been mentioning a little bit, she's 19 years old from Germany, and she said to me these words. She said, Matt, do you wish you had you when you were younger?
That is
And I
so
was like,
good.
yeah.
That's
At first I
profound
was
for a
like,
19-year-old to say that. That's a pretty profound statement. What that she has a lot of wisdom.
she does. She's been through a lot. She
Mm-hmm.
told me the other day she's old for her age, and I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like, but for
But if you
me,
had you wouldn't be who you are today.
this is true. And I actually said to her that basically those words. I said, listen, I said, the truth is, I had people around me, and I did, but I never accessed it. And I said, but yeah, even if I did, I wouldn't. But I said, I've gone through everything I have, so I could be there at that point in time. And that point in time was actually for her to finally find out who she was and find who she is in God and to develop a relationship with God. And that's gone on from there. And do you know what? That's all I care about now is like living for God, because I've seen the dark. I've seen the dark side, but I've also seen,
You said you've seen heaven.
yeah, I have. I've seen, I've, yeah, I mean, God's taken me there years ago after not long after being saved, but I've seen Jesus given me many visions of things for people's lives and just, just powerful stuff.
I ask you a question that I've been
Sure.
dying to know, and I haven't actually, this is the most I've talked to you. You know, you're in London and we share stuff on Instagram, and you have a lot of great Instagram posts. So I would encourage anyone listening to follow you on Instagram, Matt Moore. What's your Matt Moore handle? Matt Moore
75, I think it is.
75. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you this because I'm dying to know this. What prompted you, and how did you hear of the God's Not Dead premiere in London? Because it was really a last minute trip for all of us. And how did you get there that night? It's just amazes me.
Well, that's not I mean, actually, there was a journey even while I was there that you probably didn't notice at the time.
I didn't
But
know.
I got
I
there
didn't.
because I was actually a youth minister at a church in London. And basically, just one of the members of the church said, because the people that were running it had done some like free tickets and said, did I want to go? And there was tickets available for others who couldn't make it. So I was like, sure, I'll go. I'll check it out, it'll be fine. And I went. But really, all I'd say is the opportunity was 100% God's provision to go, because I think I had to reschedule some stuff that night anyway, do you know what I mean, to do it. But I knew that I had to be there. But the crazy thing was, which I think really started the journey in the sense for you and I particularly, was that night, when they were fielding questions to people, to you guys on stage, when people were asking questions, my hand went up, and because God was beginning to stir with me the word for you then, but really as it was up there, I felt a heaviness of pulling it down, and I'm like, what's going on? I'd literally, my hand was higher than anybody else's as well at some points, and I was being ignored. But then God spoke to me and said, it's not time yet. And then from there, once it was all over, it was just crazy how God made the way that I could connect with you. And it would never have been the same, I think, had it been in front of
I
everyone.
think the last person I talked to, weren't you for a while?
Yeah.
The way that he actually gave me more time with you there than if it had just been a question that was.
Yeah.
I know.
And it needed to be, and so for me, that's, it it was that, and but like I say, all I'd say, it was God. And I look at times, in my life, and I've seen how, God's worked and God's moved. Just through, just being faithful, really. And I think, and like I say, if ever you needed a reason to say, can I get out of depression? Is there life past depression? Is there life past anxiety? Is there life past a mental health issue? We don't have to wear the labels that man puts on us. We don't. People think with mental health, when you get it, you've got it for a lifetime. You don't. My thing is, people have physical illness, they get over it. They may get it again, like a cold, for instance.
But you also said something earlier. You said something earlier about God took, your alcoholism away from you pretty supernaturally. You didn't have to go through withdrawals. You didn't have to have, a patch. You didn't have to. It was like overnight. And like you said, God can do that with depression and anxiety, and really the power of praying and staying connected and staying positive, or just even reading the word or reaching out to someone like yourself is so powerful. That has had experience with it. That's so meaningful and powerful. I want to do.
Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say on that is, feel free to, if you can, post, my details up, because anyone needs to talk, anyone needs prayer, and that from my original testimony. I'm more than happy to do that, to connect. I just, like I say, I know what the power of God will do. I'm not going to say can do, will do for people.
Yes.
Will. And to restore. God's in the restoration business. God's in the life-changing business. And and sometimes now I can see things that God wants to do. And I'm impatient. I want it to happen now, but God's like, no, wait. And when it does, it's amazing how,
the Bible says,
the results amazing.
Though it tarry, though it lingers, wait for it, right?
Yeah.
Lingers. That's the hard part, is waiting. Be still. I want to do a whole other show on, I know we only have a limited amount of time today, but we'll do a whole other show on narcissism, because I've had a couple narcissists in my life. And it's a deaf and dumb spirit. That's what they say. It's hard to deal with someone who is a narcissist, and it seems prevalent nowadays. We've got the iPhone, iPad, iBook, me, I, right? How do we get away from it, really? That's a whole other show, and we'll have to plan for that.
No, totally. That's why I think that today with this one, it's been good, because it's been important to not. That thing is a whole different story in itself. But like I say, all I'm going to say 100% is there is power to heal in forgiveness. And if anybody's watching this, ask, just seek God for forgiveness, but not only forgive the people that have hurt you and forgive yourself, but also ask God to forgive them, ask God to show you, but ask God to forgive you, but also to ask God in both cases to give you his take on the situation. Say, God, you show me the reality of this. You work in me. Use his word. His word is changing lives. I'm helping a guy with OCD right now with, obsessive compulsive disorder, which is anxiety based. And one of the best stories God used for that was Jonah, for his life. And weirdly, but and as I say, if God can heal people with all sorts of diseases throughout the word, see how he's done it. Look at who he is, not just what he does, and you will see the power of who he is and what he can do and what he will do. And the love. You're
right. And the word just keeps I hear it loud and clear, because I pray it a lot, is reveal. Please reveal this to me, God. Reveal that to me. Reveal. And he will reveal everything you need to know. And he'll reveal the parts in you that need healing or to forgive, and there's power in it. And as soon as you even say it, I forgive so-and-so, I forgive myself, the feelings will follow. It's really almost like, it's incredible. It's a really freeing. It's almost like it gives you the key to get out of jail. Jail, your own captivity.
It's true. And one thing I would say is, if for people that are watching that might have somebody that they want to reach who has depression and may feel, or anxiety or whatever, and feel they're somewhat inadequate to do it, don't feel, well, I've not got a degree, I've not got this experience, that I don't feel good. The best thing you can do for somebody is listen to their story, because every story is unique. And all they want, somebody who, especially somebody who wants to get to the point of ending their life or self-harm, or who is at that low point, all they want to do is to be heard and to be loved and to be shown that somebody generally wants to care for them. The best one example I love is Winnie the Pooh. And you've got Eeyore, the depressive.
I know, right?
And then you've got Tigger, who's ADHD. But you've got all of these. But his friends love him anyway. They don't expect him to be more than he is, or say, get over yourself. They just let him tell his story. And that's the thing. Everybody's story is unique, and everybody's way out of it. It's helping them find the thing that helps them get through it, to triggers the way through it, and letting God, just letting God work through and say, God, you show me just one word, just one. That's something God's been speaking to me about actually a lot, even tonight. It's just one word. Just give me one word or a sentence or whatever that will change a life, not just for now, but for eternity, because we're talking eternity issues here. And it doesn't matter.
What's that one word?
That one word is unique to any person.
I think today it's forgiveness.
Exactly. Forgiveness. I'd say it's two, actually, forgiveness and love.
Yeah, that's so true. I hate wrapping up, but I have to ask a couple questions before we this is to be continued, by the way. We're going to do a whole other show about narcissism, and I think that will help a lot of people too, Okay. But we like to do a couple of things before we end. So let's see if I can get this right. Tell us, describe yourself in 3 words.
Nope. Give us 3 words that describe you.
It's pretty much the same thing.
It's exactly the opposite thing.
Okay. Give us 3 words that describe yourself, Matt Moore.
That's hard. I would say humble. I would say caring, and I would say crazy, but in a good way.
I would say forgiving.
Okay.
To have gone through all that you've gone through and forgive is divine. So that's wonderful and powerful. Who is, this is a benign question. Who is your celebrity crush? And I know you can't say it's Bob because he doesn't go on camera, so.
Bob's voice.
Bob's a voice. Anyone. Could be Winnie the Pooh. It could be anyone. Like, who really inspires you and motivates you?
Can't be Winnie the Pooh. Okay.
No, but you know what I mean.
Well, who inspires me and motivates me wouldn't be my crush, to be fair. No. I think. Do you know what I think? Do you know the one person? And it's not. I would say it's not a crush. I'll get that on the table. But the person that really, I think, motivates and inspires me to do what I do is the life of Robin Williams. Because
good one.
That's a good one.
It's a good one.
Yeah, just because I've and every time I watch interviews with him now, I actually see the pain that he had, and I'm thinking, I don't want people to go through it. So yeah.
That's beautiful, Matt. I really love that. Thank you so much for sharing all that you've shared today. I know that it's your journey and your testimony, and just to come out and be brave and vulnerable, and as well as strong and courageous, to do that in front of people is really encouraging and inspiring. So thank you. We love you for it, and we look forward to talking to you again. And we'll be lifting you
Absolutely.
up and praying that all of your heart's desires come to pass. Thank you, Matt.
No, thank you.
And we're out.
Hi guys, I'm Cory Oliver, and thank you for watching The Coriolis Effect. We hope you enjoyed the previous episode. Here are some more episodes you might enjoy. Hit the subscribe button below, and have a great day.